Well, everybody, welcome to Off the Rip. I'm not going to lie, we just got completely caught up in a conversation behind the scenes that we had to delay our start time just by a touch. But joining me tonight, we've got Royalty and Xotic. Parasite maybe joining us here maybe a little bit late. I'm just having a hard time getting in touch with him. We'll see if we could get him in. But we'll go ahead and let you guys start things off, kick things off. Royalty with you. Just let the people know a little bit about who you are and, what you do and all those kind of fun things.
Yeah, so I'm Royalty. I've been competing since at the pro level, I guess, since 2015. Just recently, obviously played in challengers, ended up taking that. Yeah, just fast-paced SMG player, but I don't know, just
That sounds about right. That sounds about
yeah,
right.
I don't know.
No other accolades you want to share with the
I
people out there?
mean,
I mean, come on, it's your
yeah,
time.
I mean, I don't know. I guess people call me the high sensitivity kid. I feel like I felt like I was one of the first ones to play on a high sense. Now look at everyone, bro. Now everyone's playing on it
No
now.
way, that is
So
true.
I
Everyone's
Yo,
out there sent
even
up.
have John telling me I'm old now because everyone's catching
Yeah.
up, dude.
From after you're 7-7, I'm like, yo, Haggie's playing 8-8, bro. Like, he's catching up
Dude,
to
even
you.
even Haggie's ahead of me now. Like,
Literally, he
dude,
is.
that's actually so funny because I think when I first got into Black Ops 4 and I had a chance to cast over some of you guys, I forget who I was casting with, but someone's like, yo, watch out for Royalty, man. He's cracked out. He's playing on 12-12 and shit like that. And I was like, what?
dude, people didn't even understand back in the day. Oh my
I didn't understand. I
god.
didn't get it. I
Oh
was
my
like, how do
god.
you do it?
It was only go. That was it. There was no stop. I remember
Oh
playing
my
with
god.
dude. I played with Haggy in that game in Nogafin, and dude, oh my god, I got roasted by them so much in that game. Slow it down, Matt.
Man, stop
Slow it
running.
down. I gotta tell you slow.
Kinda funny,
John,
Royalty.
for you, my man, to go ahead and let the people know a little bit more about who you are and what you do and all
Um,
that.
I go the same with Matt. Played COD for about 4 or 5 years, probably 5 years competitively. Started back in Black Ops 3 when this old man picked me up. Royalty picked me up in the Elite Legions team. Been playing for a little bit. Not a fast play like Matt. Matt's too fast for me. I'm slower, more relaxed. But 22 now, kind of chilling. I'm a world champion, a Canadian world champion.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Oh, let's go.
World Gaming Network. I took Matt down.
He
Kinda
did
sucked
take
on
me
the
down. He did take me down. I gotta
yeah,
give
I
Jonathan
felt it.
that.
You know.
Jonathan does hold down the locals. I
I did,
won't.
yo, I got the
Won't
locals. Just
lie.
know any Canadian local out there, you want to win, you get me. That's all I'm saying.
That is a fact.
Actually, and Matt, me and Matt kind of run local. That's all I'll say.
Hey, we dominated this year. All the locals, yo.
That's
They
true.
3 for
That was
3.
3 for 3. Literally 3 for 3
3
on
for 3.
locals. No one beat us. No
uh,
one touched us.
we've got Parasite here. I'm going to add him in. It's going to completely mess up all of the overlays.
Oh, of course. Go ahead, Union.
But we'll jump him in here
the
and
old
see if
man.
we can't get a little bit of this on live screen action coming here to get things going. There's Chris. There's the
Yes, sir,
ceiling
bro.
fan. Love that. Okay, what up, man?
Chris is
Hey.
head glitching. There he
There's
is.
the
Sorry.
room, bro. Head glitching
I
for
ruined
next year.
everything. I'm so sorry.
No, it's totally cool.
Yeah.
We're just glad to have you. While I'm frantically trying to change some of this stuff up, feel free to tell the people more about who you are as we're jumping in here, Mr. Chris.
Okay, well, I'm old. I'm world champion. I play I play challengers. That's it. That's me in a nutshell.
Okay, that's
I'm old.
about as clean and as clear cut as it possibly
And my name
gets.
is Chris. There you go.
There you go. We love all of those things. We've got a lot of stuff on the table here, but again, we're just trying to get a little bit of this figured out real fast. Let me just go ahead and try to finesse all of this real quick.
Chris, what's up, man? Chris, what happened, man?
It's
I ruined
okay, man.
everything. I was late, dude.
It's
I
fine.
was watching a TV show, and then I was like, oh, it's 4 o'clock. Oh, my God.
It's the way it goes sometimes. I want to get your guys' take, though, while I'm kind of fixing this up a little bit. There's one screen that we can look at. Some of the things I think that are really interesting is the fact that all of you guys at points of time in your career were playing for the CWL as, obviously pro players. And 5v5 obviously changed up a couple of things. Obviously, a couple of destinations were unclear. A lot of qualifiers had to be won for each of you guys, actually. But then going from the CWL and Black Ops 4 to the CDL, this is like a big hard-hitting question off the rip for you guys. When you guys were pro players and then all of a sudden you realized that you were going to have to play in the amateur scene, kind of take me through what that process was like, that off-season between Black Ops 4 and Modern Warfare, because I'm sure it's different from all of you guys, but I think one of the biggest things for outsiders looking in is you're going from the pro side of things. I'm sure there were considerations of, hey, would you like to join the CDL team as a substitute? But what was kind of that conversation or decision making for each of you guys? Parasite, I guess we'll start with you since you're top right corner here. When you went from Midnight Gaming to amateur last year, what was that decision making kind of like? And did you have opportunities to go pro and maybe sit on the bench as a sub?
The only opportunity that I had was towards the end of the off season. It was around when the MW beta was coming out.
Okay.
So London was looking at putting together a roster, and I had contacted them, and they told me that they all wanted to play with me. At least that's what they said. And then 2 days later, during the beta, they told me and they said that they were going to play a raid instead. So that was the only opportunity that I potentially had. And then before that, it was just bone dry, bro. Nothing. Not a single sub spot, nothing at all. It just was barren.
So when you kind of figured all that stuff out going into Modern Warfare, obviously we didn't really know what Challengers was going to be outside of the potential of a launch weekend and a finals and maybe something in the middle of the year, plus what at the time was local home series. Did you immediately take that opportunity and say, all right, these are the guys that I need to play with or want to play with at the beginning of the year, or is there kind of a feeling out period for you?
I honestly don't remember, to be fair. I just remember I just ended up on a team with Pharaoh and Spacely, and then we went from there.
Okay, fair enough. Royalty, what about you? Because I know that there was obviously some considerations in your neck of the woods as well when it came down to the Black Ops 4 going into the Modern Warfare year.
Yeah, so I mean, me and Chris obviously teamed Black Ops 4. Both of us, we obviously didn't perform as we should. So I mean, going into that offseason, it was a pretty bad one, I guess, because recency bias is a huge thing in COD. I think everybody knows that. And since we didn't do that good, you know what I'm saying? It was like Chris said, the offers were pretty dry. I mean, there was a sub spot, but ended up turning that down for and just to play in challengers, right? We didn't really know what was going to happen with challengers, but I just didn't really want to be tied down to a single team. Maybe looking back on it now, maybe made the wrong decision. Maybe not. Who knows? But ended up winning challengers. So I mean, it's good now. But
Right.
this off season compared to last one, last one was just horrible for me. So I mean, not too many offers. Kind of just tried to put together a team. After we found out, I hit up John. It was me and him going into Modern Warfare. I just tried to put together a roster of players that I thought were good enough going into the year.
Canadians.
Yeah, I mean going.
Yeah. Bro, imagine I have Bell Fiber, bro. No one's beating me on Bell Fiber.
Dude, and then
Best in the world.
So yeah, I mean, I just went into that year just trying to win everything and just make myself known again. Try to win a couple of events. Didn't really know what events that was going to be because there wasn't. I feel like there wasn't that much information. It was kind of confusing going into Modern Warfare. I didn't know home series. What I'm saying, it was pretty confusing. I don't know. So ended up just teaming with John and then just rolling with that.
Okay. Xotic, what about yourself, man? Because you guys actually had a really solid run through the tail end of Black Ops 4.
I mean, realistically, BO4 or the off season between BO4 and MW is probably the most stressful off season I've ever had. Just for the fact that we had a pretty solid year. Our EG team, if we just win an Arsenal hardpoint and get 6 seconds, I mean, that event would probably go get top 3. I'll be honest.
Absolutely.
So that kind of hurt, but obviously going into MW, after BO4 for me at least, I didn't have an awful year. I didn't have a great year. It was just an average year though. But it was very, very stressful. Obviously, I was in talks with a few teams, not really a lot. I mean, I was in consideration with Seattle thing that really didn't really happen. Something else happened with that. And then after the thing with Mutex happened, I also got hit up after that from Dallas. Well, besides that, literally nothing else happened to me. I was really on the same as them. I was pretty much just dry. I was just super stressing. I mean, I'm sure they all were too, to be honest. Because
Yeah, dude, that was
it's
a
a
stressful.
stressful
That was a
moment.
stressful ass off season.
That's going from pro league, under obviously established organizations, to challengers, which is you have no idea what's happening.
Right.
I was stressed. I know they for a fact were all
And dude,
stressed.
and it's like there wasn't
I was
just
just
there was
sad.
dude, that was
I was so stressed, though.
oh my god. I don't know. That was just crazy, man.
It was awful. I hated it.
crazy.
I hated it. I was on vacation, just chilling, and next thing I know, I got a call from someone. I'm like, oh, something happened. Nah, I'm like, I was sitting on the beach, just stressed out. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
So
it wasn't fun. It was really stressful though.
with now the Challengers year being over, obviously each of you guys finished in the top 3 at least. With Royalty, obviously with Triumph, you guys took the championship at the end. looking back at it now, if you could go back in time, let's say that someone offered you a CDL sub spot at the beginning of Modern Warfare compared to what Challengers ended up being. Do you think it's better for the top tier amateur players, or especially now, some of the pro players that are going to be down at Challengers? Do you think it's better to play all year long in Challengers, or to soak up the cushion and the security of being a CDL sub with maybe not a chance to play?
I don't.
Honestly, I don't know.
I just
'Cause-
think it depends on the offer. I feel like if they just
Yeah,
clear cut
agreed.
tell you that you're not going to play, we have these 4 goats on our team, you're probably not going to be, just filling a role. You know what I mean? You're just filling the
Yeah.
bench up. If they're telling you that, then, if you really want to make a name for yourself, you probably want to play in challengers. But for the most part, I feel like if there's a team that you think can be tossed up a bit, I mean, it's definitely
Yeah,
good to
I
consider
want
it.
to agree with you, but like, do you like? I feel like a lot of people that either didn't play in challengers or didn't even do well in challengers still got better offers than some of us.
Yeah,
Hmm.
no,
Not
I
gonna
mean, it's
lie.
true.
Like
Yeah,
it's like
just
almost like I mean like I'm not too sure about it, Matt, but I'm pretty
yeah,
sure you're still playing challengers next
yeah,
year, and you won, and you were a standout
yeah.
player.
Oh, Matt was
And-
I
31
mean,
best player.
I
dude,
mean,
yeah.
I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna, bother you about your like if you had any offers or at all to even be signed anywhere, but like, not to my knowledge, I don't think you did at
No.
least. So it's not bad. I'm not trying to bash on you. I'm
Yeah,
just saying
no,
that's
100%.
mind
I
blowing.
mean,
You know
dude,
what I
it's
mean?
just the way it is. Like, it's
There's
just,
people
yeah.
that either didn't play in challengers at all year, or there's people that played for periods of time and didn't do well, and they're still in higher positions than a star like you in challengers. So like,
Sure.
I want to sit there and say like, oh yeah, it's better to play, but is it really? Because
Yeah.
it didn't really
Yeah.
benefit a lot of the people that did. Some like it did some like there were people that got brought in like
Right,
from
right.
the challengers, but
Mhm.
like I don't know. It's just a weird situation.
Yeah, I know it is. I think
agree
it's
with
just, I think it just depends on, whatever team you're joining. I feel like Chris said, I feel like there maybe was 1 or 2 that, teams that were in the league that basically just had a sub just to sit there. You know what I mean? Like, they knew they're set for. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think with what Chris said, I kind of agree, I guess. I feel like my team should have at least, had some offers, whether it was me or Tyler or whoever else, you know what I mean?
Right.
100%.
Standy, Diamond, Naga, whoever. I just think that, yeah, I don't know. It's just crazy.
Doesn't make
I
sense
don't
to me.
know.
I don't get it personally.
I mean,
I don't
it's
understand how you don't.
from the outsider's perspective as well. Like, I know that we were talking about this off screen, and I think that, regardless of if this is a correct statement or not, like I was telling you guys, all 3 of you, I think, when we were looking at what was happening for Black Ops or Modern Warfare, I was surprised that I didn't see any of the 3 of you getting picked up to a pro roster going into Modern Warfare, just based off that last year, kind of reinstating that now going into this year. Obviously, circumstances are different going from 5s to 4s, but it's just really interesting. And kind of to that accord, just to kind of wrap up things from the 20 season, obviously Triumph largely stuck together throughout the entirety of the year, as almost a group of set 5. And then for both Xotic and Parasite, for the both of you guys got together near the tail third of the year, right? It was like Challengers Cup 4, I think,
Yeah.
was the first time that you guys had a chance to duo up. And then from there, the changes, again, were very marginal. Do you think that there is something to say about, if you're going to find success, it comes on the success as a collective? Or do you think there is something to be considered as an individual, that if you are individually successful, even if your team is not, that you're still going to get looked at as potentially being picked up, whether it's mid-season or in the season following?
It just depends on your connections, I think. I think a lot of, different players and organizations, they value different things from players, and
Sure.
some teams and some players and individuals that, you might know, like pros that have a lot of power on their rosters, they value different things. So, and they might actually be more attuned to seeing talent for what it is rather than being like, "Oh, look at your placings." Like, or being like,
Yeah.
like they might be more analytical and be like, "Okay, you might not have had the best team or this circumstance and this circumstance, but you were a good player and we saw a lot of value in you." And like that's might what like put you, like give you an edge. It depends on who you know.
Yeah, no, it's
realistically.
true. Yeah, that's actually
does.
facts.
I agree.
Do you have more to
Fully
say on that,
replacement on it.
Royalty, about that? I mean, as a guy that stuck with essentially the same group of people the entire year, like, did you hear any whispers about other people on your team, like, maybe getting looked at more heavily? Or how does that kind of dynamic work?
Well, man, I think with what happened with COVID and like everything, like with everything went to online, I just feel like a lot of organizations weren't so inclined to picking up players that were in challengers, especially like I don't really know, but I feel like there was a point in the year like where like halfway through the year, no one really got picked up. Like, who was the last player in Challengers to get picked up on a pro team?
Hollow and Draza.
Hollow and
Hollow.
Draza, right?
Technically exceed going from sub to starter, but not
that's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah,
round.
But
that's fair.
yeah, but Exceed's different because he was already like signed
Yeah,
on,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
he was signed on prior. So it's like if I'm and when was that? I feel like that was like pretty like I feel like that was like midway
That
through the
was
year, wasn't it?
around the challenge. That was around Challenger Cup 4. That was when all
Okay.
like that's
When
like when I
Exceed won?
joined these guys. Well, no. Draza and Hollow.
Oh,
Yeah, that was
Draza
around
Hollow?
Cup 4.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
literally.
I just
was
feel
around
yeah, I don't know. I mean, my team for my my team and everything, I didn't really hear too much about like, players getting, picked up or whatever. There wasn't that
had
much
this-
talk.
Sorry to cut you off, but I had this conversation with other people where I was talking about how people, if teams and rosters didn't kind of like meme their subs in a way, it would have been better for those teams, and they would have either saved money or been more inclined to pick up players because they
Yeah.
would have already been spending less. So, like for example, I'll use this as a roster or as an example, and it's not because these players are bad. It's just that it doesn't make sense for the roster they're on. So, Optic at the time, for example, was Dashy, Slasher, Cap, and Kenny. And
And
there was one
Teach.
more, right? And Teach.
Teach,
Okay, so
yeah.
you have a team of like primarily main AR flexes in Dashy, Slasher, and Cap. That's 3 like AR players already, correct? And then
Yep.
you go to your subs, and then I'm not. That's what I'm saying. Where they're not bad players because they're great players. Goon and Sheen are your subs.
Yeah.
They're both
Both
AR
ARs.
players.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if your team runs into roster issues, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You're screwed.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, no, you put yourself in a
yeah.
bad spot. You put yourself in a
It's
bad
not. I'm
spot.
not saying they didn't
Yeah.
deserve to be subs. I'm saying like it made no sense for them to be substitutes for a
On
team
that
of already
team,
strong
yeah.
AR players. What?
Yeah. No, that
And then
makes
there
sense,
was
dude.
teams that
100%.
signed content creators, and I'm obviously not any hate. And some of those were very secure teams like Chicago, who basically
Yeah.
made very minimal roster changes. But like you screw yourself over, and as a franchise, making those decisions was just plain stupid. I would much rather sign lesser known players that at least run the correct role. That way, if I needed to make switches, it would be easier to at least potentially save money. You know what I mean? Rather than it just didn't make any sense.
Yeah,
And I
rather than
think
having like
this
4
year,
people on a contract, on like,
yeah,
that. Yeah, no, I 100%
I think this
agree.
year, I think a lot more teams might actually make smarter decisions with some of their substitutes in terms of what kind of pieces they decide to support a roster around.
Sure.
To be honest.
I mean,
Yeah, I
with
agree
that
with
in
that.
mind, I mean, I obviously don't know how you guys are looking at challengers for this next year, but John, for you specifically, obviously, you spent a lot of time playing in the professional circuits without a question, and then it was obviously a surprise to not see you get picked up from this last year. But going into this next year, when I think a lot of people are assuming that the subs are going to be more in line with what a team needs rather than just let's put a name, let's put a brand. Are you looking at anything in specific saying that, like, hey, if I do well enough early that I could be a consideration, or are you kind of in the mindset of let's just dig it through challengers again and see what happens going into 2022 then would be the next year?
I mean, it's always a consideration of how your performance is and if you will get picked up. I mean, everyone has
Sure.
that in the back of their mind. I feel like if you're gonna perform and people see you performing, I mean, it kind of happened to me in BO4. I mean, I don't know if Matt can vouch or not, but beginning of BO4, I was hitting with Chris. I mean, that
Mhm.
entire thing happened. But I think on the team, I was performing well. I was performing well. And I mean, obviously EG was having struggles. So EG obviously they changed. That was what 4 weeks into the game, 3 weeks into the game. Obviously with CDL it's a little bit different.
Right.
But this year with how things are working out, anything can happen. Literally at this point, you can see a team change a month from now or a week from now, or no one makes changes whatsoever.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the way I see it, I just like obviously like you want to do your best, but obviously in challengers, like if I do play challengers, which very very likely, I obviously want to win still, no matter what it may be. I still want to win challengers. So realistically, that's all like that really matters technically.
You're just gonna do you until
Yeah, no,
something happens,
yeah,
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah,
I
all
mean,
you can do
that's
is
all you
perform the
can
best of
do.
your ability and be
Literally.
the best player and teammate, whatever you can be.
All you can
Do
do.
some content on
Nothing.
the side, whatever. And if people take some notice in you or they see your worth, they see your worth. If they don't, they don't. And at the end of the day,
100%.
that's all you can really hope for.
100%.
Yeah.
So, with all that in mind, getting out of the preseason Modern Warfare, looking back at Challengers this last year, a lot of the things that there were concerns about at the beginning when Challengers was announced was just the sheer number of events that were being played. And obviously that got changed a touch because when it was initially supposed to be home series that were, you were going to play locally at these Team CDL events. If you want to show up and play for it, you can. If not, no big deal. There will also still be other things that we'll be playing for. But once we got online, it was literally almost every single weekend there was an event.
Yep.
How grueling was that as a player? Not just being able to perform that consistently that often, but also, can you kind of speak to, is the schedule part of the reason why we saw so many drastic roster changes throughout the entire year in North America? Obviously, for you guys near the end, that wasn't a major consideration, but at the beginning of the year, I mean, Xotic, Parasite, both of you guys were kind of dancing between teams here and there, even when things were on land before that. So can you kind of speak to like what that schedule looked like and maybe how your mindset was going through the year now looking back on it?
I mean, bro, it was an everything. Like, I feel like you played our tournaments were what, Saturday, Sunday, right?
Yeah.
That's like the home series. It was
Yep.
Saturday, Sunday. You take Monday off, or at least what our team did at the end of the year was take Monday off, 4 days of scrims, and you're back to playing another tournament. It was literally nonstop gameplay. At the same
Yeah,
time, I don't mind that. I like COD. I just
I
like
didn't
playing
either.
competitive.
Dude,
It does get to a point though where it's it's not overwhelming, but you get, I don't know how to explain it properly, but it's draining. It takes a
I
lot out
believe
of
it.
you.
I just think
Yeah.
a lot of the tournaments, like it just made a lot of the tournaments just feel like it didn't work. It wasn't
Didn't
as,
matter.
you know what I mean? It didn't matter as much.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no, I
Like,
agree. I agree.
dude, the only tournaments I even remember, I swear, are the cups. Like, there was so many home series and just so many tournament 2Ks, whatever. I feel like so many of them were just, I feel like, meaningless. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like if they spread out the tournaments, like, you know, maybe two tournaments every weekend a month. Like, it just gives, you know what I mean? It makes every tournament mean so much more than just having, you know, here's a tournament this weekend and next weekend is another tournament. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
no,
saying?
I agree.
So
You guys have no idea. For me, every tournament meant like literally everything to me because I was literally living off my prize claims.
yeah.
Like, no bullshit.
Yeah, no,
So
that's fair. I get
every
that.
single tournament I went into, I was like, I'm going to try my hardest to win. And then
Yeah.
we'd finish the tournament, and it's like, all right, we got 4 or 5 days of practice, and we got to
Do it
win.
again.
So, and I think a lot of people, obviously, you know, a lot of people did definitely want to perform and win these tournaments, obviously. So I think that's what put a lot of pressure on like teams to make roster changes because if they didn't perform one tournament and the next tournament obviously still meant a lot to them where they want to win and place the money, et cetera, they want to make all these points and stuff like that to get their seeding as good as possible. Then whenever they don't perform, they're gonna be like, all right, what do we need to do? Oh, let's just try to
Yeah.
switch out a player. And it just kept happening every single week. It just kept
Yeah,
happening. You
it
saw
did.
so many roster
Yeah,
changes
dude.
until like the tail end of the season where like the top teams kind of knew who they were going to go into champs with and then
And
the
no more
rest of them were
changes.
still just
Well,
you know
that's what
in
I'm
the
saying
air.
is they should have just done like a couple tournaments every month and just have like the prize pools just stacked on those two tournaments and then keep a roster lock. Like make a damn roster lock
See,
so these
I
people
want to
can't.
agree, man, but like MW practicing was
Dude,
hell.
yeah, I know it was, dude. It was.
And literally the only thing that we had to look forward to every week was the tournament at the end of
Dude,
the week.
and if you had a bad scrim week, bro, oh my god, it was
my
the
Bro, that
worst
happened with
thing ever,
us.
dude.
That happened with me
Oh
and
my
Chris and our
god.
team. Bro, I was okay. Obviously, it's a little joke. Bro, Chris and it was. We had a bad week, Chris. Remember that?
We had a really bad week.
Bro.
I think there was
After a
no,
map
there was
loss,
2 weeks. Hold on, wait, John. There was 2 weeks going into champs, right? And so 1 week
Yeah.
it was hell, and then it was because a little Fire 40 had got his little ego from Toronto for our Toronto victory. So I literally went off on this kid, dude. I had to like get him back into
Oh
like
no.
line because he was super he was just super like high on that win and he thought he was the best and he was a great player and everything, but like he was getting very lazy in practice, so I had to go nuts on him, and then our last week going into champs was really good because of it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think
it
it
was
lasts
just
like 3
hilarious,
days.
dude.
Dude, the bad scrim weeks, there was literally nothing worse than that. Absolutely nothing worse.
I'm glad that you said that, Royalty, because I want to get in your head a little bit. You know, you guys had came off of back-to-back wins in the early part of the season, and then you had back-to-back tournaments where you didn't make top 8, but the roster didn't change at all. So, what does that feel like? Is that like a totally different feeling than when you were playing
Dude.
professionally and you have a bad week? Because those are like Chris was saying, those are
Nah,
results for money every single day.
honestly, for us, I just feel like I don't know. I just feel like it was we all wanted to win so much. I think it's like it's a similar situation. I think we all knew what we needed to do to make our way back into the league, right? I feel like you
Sure.
have to be consistent in challengers, or there's no getting out, right? I just think that with my team, we had like some really good scrim weeks, and then we had some really bad ones, and we did stick it out. But I also think that our team was something crazy, man. We would have weeks where we would just scream at each other for an entire week, get smoked, and then just go on
to
Monday
the
and just like,
tournament and
okay,
win.
guys, we gotta stop
Yeah.
acting like assholes to each other and actually just be like normal humans. And then we actually started doing good again. It was just
Sure.
I don't know. It was just crazy. That whole entire year was just
I
insane.
think when you're competing at when you're competing in a tournament environment that many times in one year, especially if you're teaming with the same people every single tournament, like that can get like really crazy. Like you guys must have got each other's nerves because not only are you guys scrimming
Dude,
every single day,
Yeah, 100%.
right?
wa-
You guys are scrimming every single day, and then you go into a competition every single weekend. And if you have a bad scrim week, and then you have like a bad tournament, and then you're just fed up
yeah,
with
dude. I mean,
everyone.
the amount of we had a lot of team talks with my team because we pretty much stuck throughout the entire year. There was
Right.
countless team talks we've had throughout the entire year where it's like we do crap 2 weekends in a row, and it's like nothing's really changing. We talk to each other, we talk our things out. We go into the next week, have a good scrim week, and then you're performing. But I don't know. It was just Modern Warfare was such a weird game. I just feel like it was also really hard to be consistent as a
Anyone
team,
can
like
win.
just a team. You know what I mean? Like it was just
Because
really
it
hard.
required such a consistent understanding from all 5 players. Like
Yeah, yeah,
not one player could screw you over so hard in that game, but it was like one of those like super niche scenarios that they could screw up and it would screw you over. Not like in
yeah,
like a normal COD where it's just like a blunder. Like it's just so easy in normal COD. Oh, you didn't
yeah. To
rotate, you didn't do
point
this.
out
In
something.
MW, it's like, oh, you didn't take this step like further than somebody else, or you
Yeah,
hesitated for half a second and then they spawned here because of it or something. Like
Right.
exactly.
it was one of those games where you had to be like focused like the entire like 10 minutes of a map and you couldn't
And
let up for even a second, otherwise you would screw up.
literally.
It was hell, dude. Like practicing that was hell because you actually had to focus up so hard in practice, otherwise you would just get steamrolled. It's almost like you would get effort gapped by the other team.
Dude, you would
That's really
actually
what
get
the game
effort
felt
gap.
like. You would get effort gapped in a scrim because you just like were lazy.
Hmm.
And it was demoralizing. Like it was so demoralizing.
Dude, I just remember loading up into Hackney Yard and just,
That's what I was gonna say.
if you were on bad side on Hackney Yard and you just
Dude, I
got full
couldn't
60 on the
imagine,
first
dude.
kill, dude.
If you were on
Could
good
not
side of Hackney
imagine.
Yard and in a scrim the entire team hit the OE to flip you, like what? In a scrim? Are
Dude,
you kidding
I
me?
just remember losing that map and just being like, "Oh, we lost by 30 on bad side. That's not too bad." You
Oh,
know,
yeah, that's not bad, guys.
that's
Not
not
bad.
too bad.
Literally.
Yeah, basically.
That's
Putting
wild.
bottom
'Cause
L, just spray through smoke, hoping for the
it
best.
was the
All
wild thing
was.
about it was like listening to the different commentators talk about Hackney Yard as well. Was just like, yeah, they got 30 off P1, so they're only going to be down, 90 to 30. It's not so bad for Hackney Yard. It's like, wait, what? Wild seeds. So with all that stuff in mind and kind of going through, I know scheduling was obviously a big problem for you guys moving forward, but with all the announcements that are kind of coming through, I don't know about you guys, but I was genuinely surprised to see the announcement for Challengers 21, even in brief, be laid out as quickly as it is. I mean, considering the fact that the game is not even out yet, and we already got an idea as far as what we're going to be getting for Challengers for the Cold War year. So with the Scouting Series, the Challengers Cups, and Elite, we'll get all of those specifically. But I just want to get your guys' take. Maybe John, with you first. Like, what was your initial reaction to seeing that announcement coming through? And maybe what did that do as far as like your mental anticipation for the year as a whole?
I mean, realistically, I think for challengers at least, it was probably a pretty good step. With everything they implemented, it's nice to know before you do. Like, it's almost like if you know how like we were talking about in MW, like before we got into the season, like people
Question
thought,
marks,
like,
right?
yeah, we got question marks. Like, how is challengers gonna work? How is it gonna do? Should we take sub offer? Should we not take it? What should we do? At least this year, there's a plan. They have an actual plan on what they want to do. Obviously, they have to implement that. They actually have to do with that plan what they say they're gonna do. Obviously, which they will. Um, but it's more so just like a. It's hard to explain, but it's nice to know because now you know what you're getting yourself into. It's like, okay,
I
oh wow,
just, yeah.
you get the scouting grounds. Oh, okay, yeah, it's an opportunity for players, obviously, like show their skill or
Eights.
do what they're.
I just think if
It is
everything's laid
it's not
out,
wrong.
I think it goes deeper than that too. I think if everything's laid out properly, like there could be more orcs coming in, right?
I
Like
100%
Sure.
think
at
more
the start of the year, I talked about at the start of the year, like all I was getting, replies to, and when I was trying to look for, an organization or whatever with like Fellow and all them, everyone just says we don't know how this is gonna work. We don't know how this is gonna
Yeah.
work. We don't know if there's any broadcast time. You know what I mean? We don't know anything about this.
Yeah.
With the Challengers Elite, at least like, there's going to be a good level of competition, and with only having 8 teams in it, you're going to be able to broadcast most of those matches. So
I mean,
I just feel like it's just way better, dude.
didn't they announce
Yeah.
there's already gonna be a dedicated Dedicated what? Dedicated stream for it?
For
they
for
announced it?
elite so
Stream for
far
the elite,
for elite, yeah.
which is the top 8
Okay,
challenger teams,
okay,
I think,
okay,
right?
okay.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
I think is good because
that's how it should be.
dude,
100%.
having to play through those tournaments every week and play those early rounds versus teams that you would just steamroll, like that was so dumb. Like I had to
Dude.
wake up. I had to wake up at like 10, 8, like no, what was it, 8, 10, 8, 9 a.m. something like that to play noobs that you would 100-point club, and then you would wait an hour and a half for your next match, and there would be delays, and you wouldn't play a single good team until the end of the night. Like what? Why
Dude,
am I
it
even?
was
What is
it
this,
was
man?
incredibly disrespectful. I'd be going into the first round, and these guys would literally not even know who I was. They would be calling us hackers or cheaters. I'm like, we're the number one seed. Like,
How did these guys
like,
even do?
wait,
How did they navigate to the page to sign up?
know.
Like,
dude,
I think, like I don't understand.
dude, with those online tournaments, I just remember there might even be the clip still online. I remember me and Chris, I think even John was in the tournament. I think us three played a 2K in Infinite Warfare. It was literally the same format they had in Modern Warfare. We played a first round of our match. The other team was trying to score the uplink in their own
I
portal.
remember that. I remember that.
And that's what we're playing against for the first 3 rounds. Like,
Dude, no. The first thing, dude, MW every single week, and I remember I would say this exact same sentence every single well, technically it was our second round, we would get a bye, right? I was like, these guys beat someone because it was second round that we would play. We would always have a bye, and we were just mind blown. These
dude,
guys that we would play beat someone, and they literally were just.
dude, I
like
always
they
used to
didn't play
say,
the
I
game.
wonder what these matches look like. You know what I'm saying? I wonder what these matches look like.
Bro,
much.
it's just hilarious. So I'm
Oh,
glad
man.
Challengers Elite's a thing, but also the
Yeah.
scouting grounds, as much as a meme as people see it as, like 8s and stuff like that. The one thing I will say, it's really good for players that aren't like, let's say like me, John, Royalty, like who've been in the pro scene before. It's good for like players that are like either like really young people or like lesser known players to be able
Yeah.
to network with some of these people that are in like the franchises.
That's a
and stuff
strong
like
point.
that.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I will say that is
100%.
good about the scouting grounds.
Oh,
But
yeah.
other than that, I'm excited for the format. It's
think
going
it's
to be
good,
good having like a
honestly.
league format rather than just tournaments, because even those tournaments were really inconsistent and fluky sometimes. Like you saw, like Triumph like won and then didn't make
You know,
top 8.
top
Like, it's
16. Like,
Right,
that's not
yeah,
going to
it's tough,
happen
that's
in a
tough.
format where you're playing round robin versus these teams like multiple
Yep.
times. So
So
true.
with scouting series, let's spend some time actually talking about this, just in case you're not familiar with it. If you're listening in, top 64 from both North America and Europe will have a chance to play in these scouting series. It's going to last over the course of 4 days, and as far as I remember reading, you're going to get 48 players per day over those 4 days. So there will be some players that don't play every single day, or whatever, like that, stuff like that. The big question, and you brought it up there for a moment there, Chris, the fact that people are thinking that it's kind of a meme, that people already know. If you're at the top of a list, you're at the top of the list. Nothing's going to change from this scouting series. So with that in mind, is that really going to hold any water? Like, do you think that's true? Do you think that there are still more worthwhile moments outside of maybe connections alone? Do you think there are some worthwhile moments? Because this will be honestly an opportunity not just for 8s to essentially occur, but for coaches, GMs to maybe get a more in-depth look at a player specifically than just sitting and watching their personal stream. Do you think that this will indeed be something that is worthwhile, or is it something that maybe for the top players might not matter as much, but it could matter more for those players that are like top 32, top 64, that are still looking to kind of prove themselves as, yes, maybe my team last year wasn't great, but me individually, I actually can hang with these top tier players.
I mean, no, Chris kind of said it. I kind of think it kind of like lingers more towards the players on the back end side that
Sure.
haven't actually fully created their name yet, and who are like the lower end, but at least someone knows them, but they haven't fully gotten out there. They haven't performed, like they haven't like won anything yet. Like they haven't done much yet. I think it's really good for them. I think it genuinely just comes down to if the league teams or the teams are actually doing it, actually like put
take
the
it
effort in,
serious.
take
Okay.
it serious. Because if they're gonna go in there and not take it serious and be like, oh whatever, it's blah blah blah, it's pointless. It's fully pointless. But if teams are actually go in there, which I think Brian Sain already said, like they're gonna pick up players through that. If teams were to actually like try to do that, maybe not pick up players, but take notes on players, that
Sure.
will be a big thing for it. So I think it completely lays on the CDL teams and how they take it. If they take it serious, I think it'll be perfect. If they don't take it serious, might not be the best.
So you're
That's just
saying
my opinion.
you as a player, you're going to take it as seriously as the coaches or GMs lend off
Yeah.
towards how serious. Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Every player should be taking it serious no matter what. But it really comes down to me what I think is the coaches and how they take it.
Fair enough.
That's just what I think at least.
Now, with taking that serious, is that something that you individually are saying that I have to have a good game, or do you think it's going to be more important to try to get into a world where you're on a team that's continually winning in these 8 scenarios? I know I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit.
I mean, it's one of those things to where eights are always like, eights are very kill horror heavy. Eights don't play out the same way as a scrim. If you go play eights and you play a scrim, it's 2 different games. They're
I believe it.
completely different games. So obviously going into it, like you want to perform well, but it's I personally would probably rather have a team that's consistently doing well and placing well and winning. That I'd want that more than just completely just pretty much kill horror and going into that thinking, oh, I'm just gonna drop 50. I don't really care what I do, what I play. I'm gonna go drop 50.
Sure.
I just don't see a point in that. I mean, you're not playing the game right. And if coaches again take it serious, they see that. So,
Chris, Matt, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think it's different. I think it'll be different in like a 4v4 scenario, even if it's just 8s. Like 5v5 is a lot easier to kind of get away with just being a knucklehead and playing like
Sure.
an idiot. But in like a
Yeah, that's
4v4
true.
scenario, like I think if coaches actually understand what they're looking at, or even players like me, like they'll be able to clearly see people that are just not playing correctly or like harming a team in like those I guess scouting grounds things. I think it's a lot easier to see, and they're the blaring issues that come from that are just it's just easier to take note of. So I don't think it'll be as bad
yeah.
as
I
mean,
like
he's not
people might
wrong,
think it
though.
is.
I don't think it'll be that bad either. I just think that everyone's gonna go into the mindset with, if I win this, I win it. You know what I mean? I feel like no one's gonna want to go. I feel like, at least for me, like I'm speaking for
I'm
myself
going
here, like
hard.
I'm going hard to
100%.
win that. You know what I'm saying?
Everyone
Like
has
smoking you if
you
you're
know,
mom.
Take your body, Chris. Pipe down. You'll never be a friend of mine. You'll never be a champion. Pipe down, Chris.
Um,
All love.
With that in mind, logistically, we obviously don't know how things are going to happen, obviously outside of the fact that it's 4 days long and it's going to be 48 players per day. Would you have a preference as far as logistics are concerned? Because I could see kind of 2 sides of things. Number one, you're getting put onto a team with someone who is just might not even need to be there. Top like number 64 out of 64 overall pro points. Maybe didn't even have that great of a year last year. You're on a team with them, might bring you down just a touch. But the other side of things is that what could essentially happen that might be negative is the fact that coaches are only picking out of 12, 16, maybe the top 20 players, and those that are sitting between 32 and 64 are never getting picked. So is there kind of a expectation for you as far as how logistically these 4 days are going to go, or maybe what you want to see as far as whether there is any spreading of the wealth, or maybe you're out there thinking, no, like if I get picked every single time, I want to get picked every single time?
I'm going to get picked every single time. That's what I'm hoping
mean,
for.
yeah,
I mean, at the
I
end of the
believe
day,
that.
At the end of the day, I hope the coaches don't just pick the same people every
Same
time.
people,
That would just be kind
yeah.
of lame.
Right.
That would just discourage people that are trying to come up. To be honest, they don't even get an
I agree.
opportunity.
yeah.
They cross they cross the qualification threshold and then they still don't get an opportunity.
Right.
Like that.
I agree with
No, it's true, dude.
So with that in mind, this is just raw reactions. Do you think 64 is an appropriate number of players, or do you think there should be less?
I think 64 is good, to be honest.
Yeah?
I mean, because the way I see it, though, is like taking
it's
off
enough.
MW.
Yeah.
I think taking off MW, like, there was a lot of talent that came up in MW. Obviously, it's more of a flukier game and anything can happen. But a lot more talent came up, and now that you have, what was it, 24 players coming down from the league last year
Yeah, right
in the
around that.
challengers, like, there's going to be, like, challengers are going to be filled with people that are actually, like, that. I mean, everyone has talent, but people, like, know what they're doing. They're going to be smart. They're not going to be, like, worse players. They'll all be really good players. Every single one of them will be good. I think 64 is complete enough, personally. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's
I
a
don't think
good
it should be
number.
No,
lower.
I think,
Especially with the people dropping down.
that's what I'm
That's
saying.
what I
If
mean,
people
it's the
didn't
people
drop
dropping
down, then it would have been too much because
I
I
agree with that.
don't even know. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
because
saying?
then you're
But
looking at players that finished like top 24 at finals, for instance.
Yeah,
things
and
like
literally
that.
got something in.
And that's a gap. I mean, from the top of challengers from finals to even to the bottom, like whether it's NA or AU, top 24 to top 4, there is a pretty big gap that's there. So, I mean, overall final reactions, I think that you guys kind of are pretty much saying that this is a positive thing. This is a step in the right direction. It's something that bridges the gap between last year and this upcoming year. Do you really think, I mean, the one story that I think I attributed a lot of last year to as far as big come up moments, I'm looking at players like Fame, who the year before had a solid year, but it wasn't until he played in Atlanta that people were like, oh snap, like Fame is actually a really solid player. Do you see kind of moments and opportunity for players in this particular scouting series to maybe gauge whether they are maybe at the better level than where they actually finished from the year before?
So here's the thing. I think the scouting series, at least for lesser known players, is gonna. It's not. It might not do a ton for like in terms of like the way the pro franchises do, but I think it'll do good for you in the AM scene, in
Sure.
my opinion.
Yeah,
I think if you
Yeah.
agree with
I
that.
think getting noticed really like well in those scouting series might actually do you some good in terms of like the higher echelon of challenger teams whenever they're making roster changes and
I
stuff
agree
like
with
that. I mean, it might not do you anything crazy in terms of like, oh, you're gonna get picked up on a franchise, but I think it'll help you in the challenger scene for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Makes sense. So.
I think challengers are more open-minded in terms of like taking risk than the franchises are. Or so
Yeah, no,
I
they
think
are.
it'll help you.
They are. I'm sorry.
One last kind of aside thing, you just kind of perk me up here mentally when it comes down to what do you think about the scouting series being as a main tool for these teams to look at the potential consideration of actually fielding an academy roster? You know, because you've got teams like the Los Angeles Guerrillas. They've already established what their 4-man roster is going to be in challengers. You figure that Atlanta will also continue to have a challengers roster, but who knows what that's going to look like. Hex in the past has said that Chicago would entertain the idea of a challengers roster. And then you also had, organizations last year like Rebel were affiliated with Minnesota. They also fielded a roster for the majority of the year. Is this maybe an opportunity for those coaches and GMs to take a look at the challenger scene and say, yes, there are 4 good pieces for an academy roster, and do you think academy rosters are just an overall something that needs to happen? I mean, I think we all want it to happen, but is it something you guys think needs to happen going into next year with the elite series and everything like that?
I think having challengers academy teams or whatever is a positive thing because it gives you like more so a way to what's the word I'm looking for? Like it gives you a chance to kind of like breed talent like in your own like franchise.
Sure,
So
right.
like I think it's a positive thing. Do I think a lot of teams will do it? No, because a lot of them might see it as a waste of money. I think the furthest a lot of teams will go is like, okay, you have your subs and then they can go play with whoever they want, but they're not going to
Sure.
pay the people they're playing with because that's just like I think a lot of franchises see that as a waste of money. They don't really see that as a gain.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a long-term thing. I think with teams that have academies, like, in the next couple of years, I think they're going to be the ones to really actually develop players and, you know what I mean, stay on top consistently throughout the years. I mean, you see it in the NBA, I feel like. I feel like in the NBA there's a lot of like, how they have like the farm teams or whatever.
Right.
Some of the NBA teams, they're the some of the really good ones. Most of them have their farm teams, their academy teams, and then there's some organizations that either got rid of theirs or don't have them at all. And you know what I mean. I feel like you can tell which team's actually developing their talent and which team's not.
Makes
So we'll
sense.
see, dude. We'll see. We'll see.
We will.
Maybe in the future.
Yeah,
But right now,
I don't think
infancy of
anytime.
it. No.
I don't think I think it's just not really gonna make or break anyone right now. I just think in the next couple of years you'll probably see it more.
Interesting things. Well, let's move on and talk Challengers Cups because you guys had a lot of conversation about the scheduling from before, the idea that maybe there need to be fewer overall tournaments with bigger prize pools. Challengers Cups are going to return next year. They're going to be returned globally. I guess the thing to keep in mind is that for things like the Scouting Series, APAC will not be included in that, but Challengers Cups will be something that's global. We don't know if there are going to be continual home series tournaments along the same path as Challengers Cup Series. At least that hasn't been announced as of yet. So, let's just throw everything on the table. You've got the ability to have home series tournaments and Challengers Cups or just Challengers Cups. What do you guys prefer? Do you think that there should just be breaks in between and there should only be a handful of Challengers Cups? Maybe there's a certain number that you're looking at saying that this many Challengers Cups throughout, a 6-month season is appropriate. What are your guys' kind of thoughts as far as the Challengers Cups are concerned?
I would take as many opportunities to compete as I possibly can just
That's
because
what I
I
was gonna
just
say.
enjoy it. But at the same time, like Matt said earlier, it makes them worth less,
That's fair.
which sucks. So I mean, if the pricing is healthy, all the way through, then I wouldn't mind having a lot of tournaments. But if they're gonna like, if they would rather just like make prizes like top heavy and like less tournaments, then that's fine. I'll do that too. It's just it's one of those it's a conflict like it's like a conflict for everybody. I think that everyone's gonna face. It's like, oh, do you want to play more tournaments or do you want tournaments to mean more? So it's I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard question for sure.
Yeah. No, I think so. Because I mean, there's obviously two arguments to it. It's like it gives people more chances to do good if there's more tournaments, but then, you know, if there's 50 tournaments, how the hell can you keep track of who won which one? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Right.
100%.
As opposed to like 10.
Oh,
So
trust me, I tried to track it, and it was still difficult
Yeah.
at the end of
Oh,
the
really?
day. It was so many tournaments to
Ask
track.
me this question after like I'm scrimming the game for like 2 months, and then I'll
That's-
tell you which
that's
one I
true.
which one I
Noted.
have.
Jeez.
Noted, Chris.
That's
Noted.
true.
I'm
I
up in the
think.
game, man. I'll take less tournaments.
Do you guys feel it? Maybe John, this is a good question, maybe for you. Do you feel that because the home series events also included challengers points, that you felt like you had to play every weekend? Like, would you rather see a world where home series events still existed and coincided with challengers cups? Maybe it was still at least a $10,000 tournament every time for a home series, but challengers cups were say 25,000, and only at challengers cups you could earn challenger points. Would that maybe free up some of the scheduling nauseation that you may have had at certain points throughout last year?
I mean, it probably would clear up more of it. I still think the biggest thing for a lot of people right now is low key would be kind of prize pool though.
Okay.
'Cause,
So
a lot
you're
of people
saying money
do
over
base it
points
off
at
prize
this
pool.
moment in time?
I mean, a lot of people do base it off prize pools. The points aspect, it was really weird because I don't remember challengers. Wasn't challengers like super low points?
Challengers,
But home series were like
so
10K a
challengers
piece?
cups. No. Challengers cups were worth like, so they divided like what, 4 or 5 challengers cups.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought.
Like,
5 of
remember there was
them,
supposed to be a mid-season event
Yeah,
that's like
yeah.
worth
So they cut it up.
250,000 pro points. So they just divided it up into multiple cups. So that if you won all of them, it'd be like winning one Minnesota, for example. So
Mm.
challengers cups were less points individually. However, you would get all the points from each one. And then home series, you would only get your top 2 placements overall for the entire season. So if you
That
won,
is
if
true.
you won 2 home series, then for points at least, you had 0 reason to compete in
The
a
reason
home
to play
series
for
ever
points, it was
again.
strictly for practice.
It was strictly for
and,
practice and money.
and money. Yep.
Yeah. But
Is-
I mean, like, I mean, I'll take the point. Yeah. So at least for me, prize money over everything. Points can come
Okay.
second because realistically, you do
don't do a
well
lot.
anyways. You do well anyways, and you make money. You're gonna have
100%.
points.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
So, period.
Yeah, I mean it's together. If you do,
Okay,
if you do
so
well, you're gonna get points. You're gonna make
They
money.
go hand in hand, man.
Yeah, no,
Ju-
they do. Fully.
just as a reference, first place from a Challengers Cup was 5,000 overall Challengers points, and then a home series, as my internet struggles to load, was also, they were the same. It was 5,000 no matter, the breakdown was the same between.
What?
thought first place
If you
challengers
won
were-
if you won a home series, you got
Yeah, I
10K
think
points
I
a piece.
Wait, what?
If
I'm-
you won a home series, you made 10K each. Yep, because I remember I won. We won 2 of them.
Huh? Then
I won
COD
LA
Gamepedia
and I
must
won
be
the Toronto one.
okay.
It was
So COD
10K each.
Gamepedia
Yeah.
must not have had it up to date because it's showing
Yeah.
5K each for those.
Nah.
The only reason why I bring that up, I mean, I do want to get your guys' reaction on pro points as a system overall, but behind that, one of the ideas, I think Bobble was on the show with Easy Mac and a couple people at the beginning of the year for Modern Warfare, and we saw the layout of the schedule. We're like, this is just too much. Would you rather see there be like minor or major tournaments, or does that not make a difference? I think the consensus from what you guys just said was that wouldn't make a difference. You'd play in everything. But do you think there should be some sort of a system where there is a minor and a major? And maybe that is home series versus cup, or does it really not make a difference one way or the other for you guys?
Honestly,
I mean,
think
realistically, it's the same thing. Like
enough,
like you
okay.
said, the home series is like a minor. The Challengers Cups are like
Are
majors. Yeah.
I think
At
that's
least prize wise.
I think every 2 weeks you should have like maybe like a minor, so like a home series, and then at that third week, so every third week you have like a major
Fair enough.
or a quote unquote
Yeah.
major. I think that's how it works. I mean, that's for me personally. I like playing. I like playing competitive. I have literally no issue playing a tournament. It just makes I feel like the Challenger Cups will mean more at least. But I mean, I don't know. I think
And-
I'd like it that way though.
I think it sounds like we're all in agreement that Challengers Cups should mean more, whether that's an elevated prize pool or elevated overall Challengers points. It sounds like we're all in agreement that that should be a thing, right?
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, honestly, whatever they can do just to broadcast at least most of the matches, however that works out, that's like, I think the biggest concern is
So
just
you also
making
got to
sure.
give them a break because they came up with the whole Challengers Cup thing like halfway through the year.
Oh yeah,
That's
no,
fair.
no, I said it. I
There's
mean,
no
dude, it was
rush.
literally COVID, right? I feel like they did a pretty good job of,
They did a
putting
great
everything,
job.
putting everything together with
I
the,
did.
under like the circumstances that was happening
Yeah.
with the world. But they did a good job. They did.
They did do well for what like put through our.
Dude, the one thing that I hate that they screwed up and it was such a just like a kick in the teeth was like halfway through the series, the random like 40k points they gave to subs.
Dude.
Yo, Jeff had like
I
90.
saw,
I
I
saw
saw
like
Goonjar with
60K.
more than me. I'm like, yo, Cheb, I won 2 events, bro. Like,
It
he's
was
like,
mind
called
blowing
that.
because they were getting points for like every event they like didn't play or something for a pro team,
Yep.
and it was like there was zero possible way that you could make up for like you could catch up to them realistically
Yep.
because they were getting points even though like for home series when you were capped, like let's say you won 2 home series like Royalty did earlier in the season than I did, he couldn't even make any more points off home series, so he just had to watch them pass him up and have
Dude.
zero chance
I
of
watched,
catching
dude.
up to them.
I had double the points of
Forgot
Jev,
about
man,
that.
and then overnight he's just 10k ahead of me. I'm like, God damn, Jev.
Dude, Cells in the chat says Doug came back and had like 55k and never
Yeah,
played a
that's
single
actually
2K or
yeah,
anything.
that is wild.
And I was telling John, I was like, bro, honestly, if Jev would have just not played in anything, he would have had like until like the last like 2 events, he would have had the most points
By
like
far.
out of everyone in the league.
Oh,
There
yeah.
was actually one like I remember so you remember the Toronto Cup or whatever, if Jev didn't play that tournament even though he won, he would have made more points because of like him missing the tournament and getting the sub points. I think it was some, I forgot what it was. There was some like thing about that where I was like, yo, honestly,
I
dude,
remember
Jeff
that.
could have just like not played
Not
the
played it.
tournament and we could have played with like Sib or something, and we
Oh,
would have
cool.
just been
Yeah.
like we would have just made points and Jev would have like took first. We would have like
Yeah.
I think elevated like the first or second seed because of it.
Do you guys? I mean, what are your guys' overall take on challengers points? Because I've had this conversation with other people before, and it almost feels like it's the lesser of other evils. Like there's not really a true solution to the problems that are there, but this one does maybe the best job overall. Outside of the CDL subs generating free points, or maybe including the CDL subs generating free points, what are your kind of pros and cons of the challengers points system, especially considering that now, with however many cups that we have, those will determine your final standing potentially to get into the Elite League, which we'll talk about here in a little bit.
Mainly just the only thing I really have with issues with the points is like the spread of them, and yeah, I don't think. Okay, so here's another thing. I think with the substitutes, you know, there being so many more like players in challengers this year and like subs competing in challengers, since like basically every single sub is going to play challengers this year. Gifting them free points is literally stupid, and if
It's
they
just
do it
not
again,
it.
that is just going to be
Not fair.
mind blowing because
Yeah.
then it just makes it so like you're guaranteed to be an elite if you're a sub on a pro team. Like
Yeah.
you don't even have to play.
No, 100%.
Yeah,
just
I
like
mean,
that's
100%. They
I
can't
don't think
give
that
out any
they
freebies.
they can't give out any freebies this year with basically everyone guaranteed to play. I think last year the reason they gave points to people was because there was a security net in case you ended up getting dropped from your team, you could still compete and have like,
True,
you know,
right.
catch up like mechanic. But this year there's nothing holding you back from playing, and basically every single player that is a sub can compete in challengers, no ifs, ands, or buts. So no free points this year. And then GBs just should not be a thing, period. Like that
Ever.
is just stupid. You should
Yeah.
get your seeding off tournaments only, and you shouldn't have to play GB tournaments because at the beginning of the year, even for the top teams playing GBs, you kind of have to do it, and it's fucking stupid because it's a waste of time
Annoying.
and it's just a waste of valuable practice time that you
Yeah.
could spend practicing, actually getting better and not playing Billy Bob Jr. for 10 points a freaking day, or you can actually spend it, you know, making content or something, being useful, not just playing a game battles match versus people that you shouldn't ever have to play,
Yep.
ever.
Do you feel like the
Pointless.
GBs is a system that has to be there though for the players that aren't earning points during their tournament run?
No.
Like, okay,
They
So
should
you're
they
just-
should have tournament. They should have tournament. They should have points for every single placing, just minutes. Amount
okay,
of points.
okay.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, that's
what?
definitely how
Okay.
they should
Like,
do it
what,
too.
it takes no effort to be like, okay, if you get last place, you get fucking 10 points each or something. Like,
Got
oh,
you.
boom, you have points. Like, just scale it. What is the point of not giving out points?
Yeah, all they're
to
doing is just
people
making everyone
competing?
play GBs. Like that's
just
what they're
making,
doing.
Yeah, I think they're just having people use their site. I think that's why they do it, and I think it's selfish and it's annoying and just stupid. Shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah.
What's your take on all the challengers points, especially how it's going to like impact us next year? I mean, there obviously is some still consideration the fact that CDL pros from last year or CDL subs from last year will be coming into this year having never played finals and still have themselves a lot of pro points going into those opening tournaments.
I mean, I feel like Chris kind of hit it pretty well there. The fact that subs got points for not even playing, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. If I feel like if that aspect was gone, if the subs getting 3 points was gone, I would have no issue with challenger points. I mean, Chris had the GB things. They were super annoying. I remember when me and Matt were teaming at the
Oh
end of the
my
year.
god.
We would play one a day. We get
No.
we would finish 3 set of scrims, and I'd be like, "Yo, guys, I'm posting a GB. Don't get food. Don't go anywhere. You have to play GB out." It's like, why? It wasn't fun.
Dude, I mean,
Uh,
like, let me keep it a buck here because, like, this is how it be. This is how it be when you play these GBs, okay? You go in, and then half the time, people don't even want to play you because it's a waste of their time because they got to do their 7 matches too. So they either give you the win, or they want you to cancel it, and it's just like it's just how it is. People just want to get it done as fast as possible. You know what I mean? Especially with when you're at like the tier, like the level that me, Chris, and John are at. None of us want to spend our time playing 7 GBs, like a day or a week, like.
Bro, this goes from the top of the pro scene to even like the top of the challenger scene. There is zero reason why I should be playing in a ladder versus a player that has never even picked up a controller. Like, so obviously I'm gassing it, but you get the freaking point.
Right,
There's
right.
zero reason for me to do it. That I'm not like I'm gonna go in 100 point club this guy. Why the frick do I have to play this? Like there's
Yeah.
literally no merit to it. It's useless. And like I said, I think the only reason they're doing it is because they're trying to collect like either like they're having to have users on their site or like GB premium, because like I think being GB premium, like you get to select your maps or something and like make it just quick and easy. But like, dude, like that's bogus, dude. Like, come
Nah, it
on.
is. It is. It
Why
is.
is the
Nah,
thing,
they're
bro?
weird.
Dude, you remember in IW where in IW at the beginning of the year there was no cap on GBs that you could earn a day, and people were
Dude.
legitimately playing them from sunrise to
Dude, I was
sundown.
dead ass hitting
nuts. That's
dead ass
nuts.
hitting 20 a day, bro.
Bro,
I was hitting 20 a day.
people had 1,000 GB matches played. Like when they
Drama.
basically stopped the ladder and capped it. What?
Bro,
Are
when I
you
team with
kidding
drama,
me?
when I team with drama, we would scrim. Obviously, it scrims like back then in IW, you scrimmed like 6, right? It was like later days of scrims.
Yeah.
And drama would literally get off, or like we would enter scrim at like 10:30, 11, whatever. He would play scrim from 11, not get off until, or he would play GBs from 11 p.m. till 10 a.m.
No
People wouldn't
Go
even
to sleep,
scrim.
go to
chance.
sleep for
People
5
wouldn't even
hours.
scrim.
Yeah, go to sleep for 5 hours, scrim again, and do the same thing.
People wouldn't even
No
scrim.
way.
There was teams that
There
were
were teams that weren't
legitimately
scrimming.
not scrimming,
I
and
think
they were just playing their
Pat wouldn't
GBs
scrim.
to stay ahead of the points and keep their seed
100.
going into the first tournament. And
Yep.
that was pathetic because if you played enough GBs, I think you could literally add like 2 placements onto your tournament placing if you played
Yeah,
in the 2
no,
days.
you could.
That was freaking stupid, and I'm just
It was
mind blown
dumb.
they
It was
came up with
dumb.
that.
Dude,
But it was
I remember
unhealthy.
I remember that the first event in Infinite Warfare, they like the pro point breakdown was very like small, right? I feel like
And Matt
there was
got it.
something that happened. We ended up getting fourth that event, and I just remember I went home, I saw the prize pool, I saw how many pro points were distributed. I'm like, I texted Simple, I was like, get on for GBs now.
Literally.
Oh yeah, no, I do remember that because then the next tournament after, people got like a crap ton of points, and like the first people that
Yeah.
won the first one meant like nothing. I
Yep.
remember.
The first event
That's
meant
actually
nothing
funny.
out of you. Literally
I
nothing.
mean, they were still
mean,
still
it meant, but-
perfecting the pro point system at the time
Yeah.
with the league and stuff,
Yeah,
but
no.
dude, they still don't even got it right now, and
Yeah.
it's so bad, dude. It
So-
takes zero effort to just give people. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No,
I
as
lost
they
it on this
floating
one.
out there, are there any other ideas as far as, outside of distributing pro points all the way down to every single placement? Are there any other things that you guys would like to see impact how a quote unquote leaderboard of amateur players stacks up?
I mean, maybe if if they had like a leader, like this will just make it like it easier to access information. Like if they just not only added like, hey, you got this many points, like your first, seconds, and thirds on like the leaderboard
Sure.
of like the tournaments, that's cool. Like that'll just add
Okay.
some information onto one page rather
Yeah.
than having to go look up at COD Esportspedia or you know what I
Game
mean?
battles,
Dude,
COD
it was so
Sportspedia.
hard to track pro points last year. I
Yeah,
tried to
just,
do it for like a week and a half and I gave up. It was just too hard.
Just some quality of life stuff to add
Yep.
onto like the leaderboard, so it's easier to access. It's easier to present information to people. You know.
One of the biggest
that, I mean,
things that we heard a lot, especially throughout the middle of the year when COVID hit and we got back to online challengers, was the idea of picking teammates based on the number next to their name with their overall challenger points. how important is that? I feel like I'm going to get a variety of answers from you guys here, because I think some of you guys are more willing to look at up-and-coming talent and give them a chance more than maybe just playing with who you might know. But do you think there is some consideration, and how much consideration would there be for this is your pro point value? That's how much more likely I am to team with you.
At the higher echelon, I think it matters less. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
man, especially with online, like having a good seed was important.
I believe
So
it.
important.
Picking up players with less points was so like risky. And then not only that, we were playing MW, and yeah, at the highest level, like it was pretty consistent. But overall, I mean, it's still very fluky. So you would almost like want to avoid certain brackets, and like people would do their like totals and be like, oh, if we get this seed, we don't have to play these teams, or if we did, you know what I mean? So like it was just, I don't know, it's risky business. But if like lands were a thing, I think it would have mattered less for sure,
Okay.
because I think online played a big part. People didn't want to be lower seeds than certain teams, because then they'd be like, oh, we have to play them on 3 respawns on their host, and their host
Yeah.
is really bad for us, and it was just, yeah, it was just lame. So I think that's what mattered a lot. And then some people obviously did it for like if you were like a, so for example, Carnage was a sleeper team this entire season.
Sure.
So I think the teams that were like 9th in points or something would always have to play them, or like 8th. So people tried to avoid being the 8th seed, and would almost have rather picked up people with even less pro points. And that's kind of like counterintuitive, because most people want more to have a hide in their seed. Some people would have actually played with people with less points, so they didn't play Carnage, for example.
Yeah.
Like there's people that were doing that. It's just like, it was just a whole bunch of like metagaming type stuff that people would do, and yeah, it was lame. And I just don't think it would have been a big deal if it was LAN, to be honest.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I agree with that
Yeah.
too.
So with all that in mind, now we talk Challengers Elite. And I think this is where we're going to spend a lot of our time just kind of talking about what's the importance of it, how do you even see this going, and the logistics of it. But the whole idea, in case you're not familiar, top 8 overall squads from North America and for Europe at certain points throughout the year will be able to qualify for Challengers Elite, and it will essentially be the first time we've gotten like a tier 2 league. There will be round robin style format. It'll culminate in the playoffs, and then we don't really know how the cycle of the seasons or the splits of it goes. But the fact of the matter is, we are getting a clear-cut division. So the scouting series is essentially one way to get division between who are your top 64 overall players. Everybody else is not quite in that conversation.
So I actually, sorry to cut
Go
you
for
off,
it.
but
Go,
I
go, go,
actually
it's fine.
I'm pretty sure I have insight into how this is going to work, because after you just explained it right there, it just hit me. I honestly think what we're getting next year is a similar version to what we had in World War II, with the 2Ks going into the what are they called, the national circuits. I think that's
National
literally
circuits. Oh, yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's
yeah, the national
exactly what's
quals,
going to
yeah.
happen. So it's going to be 2Ks will be the cups. We're going to get cups. The scouting series is completely separate, so just ignore that for a sec. We're going to get cups, which are going to be like our 2Ks. And we might even get 2Ks as well, but whatever. We're going to get the cups, which will be the 2Ks from like World War II. And then the top whatever seeds going up to the Challengers Elite for that, like that's part of the season, will go into a national circuit, a elite, and they will play each other in a round robin, get into playoffs, play each other in playoffs. That's literally what national circuit was, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, it was the exact same.
I mean, dude, me and John were in the Canadian one. We went like on a
Oh,
9
no.
feet or something.
Yeah, so you guys had
I-
tournaments. You guys would have tournaments. You'd have a certain amount of pro points. You would go into your national circuit. You'd play all the teams, never lose a map, and then you would play playoffs, right?
That's how it was.
Oh, so yeah, we're literally gonna have the same exact thing. That's literally what I'm predicting, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly what's gonna happen next year.
So you
Okay.
think it's gonna only be NA though? Do you think it'll be split to
Yo-
Canada,
Well, no,
US?
Well,
it's gonna be NA. It's gonna be NA. It's
Yeah.
just gonna be only NA, EU, etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's literally what's gonna happen. It's gonna be Challenger Cups and maybe 2Ks. I don't know. They haven't really touched on that, but Challenger Cups for sure. Get all your
Yeah.
pro points, best pro points, national circuit, aka Challengers Elite, play each other, playoffs, win, do it all
Okay.
over again.
Fair
I don't
enough.
know
Fair
how many
enough.
times they're gonna do it, but yeah,
Right.
that's probably what's gonna be. Oh, I think about
Yeah,
it.
because you know the big question I think just comes down to, as you separate between your top 8 teams and everybody else in the field for North America and Europe, what happens while that Challengers Elite circuit is going on? Will there still be cups that people can be earning points? Because then you've got a situation where the top 8 technically aren't. You know, there are things that had be considered that way around. But as far as establishing the league and kind of putting another boundary up, you know, where last year it was you had your pro division and everything else. They would never touch each other. It was just the way it was. Now you've got essentially a second tier to that, where you've got a tier 2 establishment. implications, I'm sure, are at an all-time high as far as you make that Challengers Elite, the showcase and the spotlight will be right there with you. I mean, just what were your initial reactions to hearing that Challengers Elite was coming back? I imagine that there was mostly positive things as far as the anticipations of being there and getting an extra heightened bit of exposure.
I don't know. Like,
What was your initial take, John, when you heard about it?
I mean, I didn't mind it, but I didn't think it was going to be anything too special. I think it was a step in the right direction.
Okay.
But it was something that at least more eyes, like you kind of said, more eyes could watch it. I mean, I don't know if Elite will be anything like. I think it's probably gonna be what Chris said and how it's gonna run the same way. I don't see it running any other way. I do think Elite will help though. I think it'll help a lot with you know how we talked about earlier with organizations coming in. I think it'll help a lot with that. But I don't
Yeah,
Yeah, I
mind
think
it.
it'll
needs to
help
be,
orgs.
yeah.
Yeah.
There
It'll
needs to be
help
something
orgs come
concrete.
in. If
Um,
there could be a consistent stream for Elite and or for 2Ks or cups or whatever it may be, that alone will bring organizations come in from anywhere else. I mean, you look at Renegades. Renegades is a top organization in the world,
Right.
and they're in it. They're technically in it. You have Triumph. You still have organizations like UA. You have organizations coming in. I see Elite helping organizations coming more.
yeah.
So realistically,
I
technically
think
should
there's a
help
lot of
everyone make
reasons that
Yeah.
organizations want to participate this year because not only do you have pros that are
more.
dropping down from like the league that might want like to sign to organizations temporarily, maybe, but like those guys are big names. You also have the scouting series, which some of these organizations are going to be like, oh, that's my player in the scouting series, like
Right.
what I mean, he's getting looked at by franchises, like that's pretty cool.
That's
And
true.
then you have the elite, which is going to be broadcast, and it's going to be like a tier 2 league. So like I think there's a lot of reasons for organizations to want to kind of
Yeah.
be more willing to invest in challengers this year, especially now that there's a concrete plan that they can plan for, rather than last year how we had the super
What
last
happens, happens.
minute. The home series thing was just not good.
Right.
It was horrible, man. It was, and I get why they did it. They wanted they wanted their franchises to channel their like local markets, but like it was just so unhealthy for the challenger scene.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Uh,
another big complaint, especially when if it goes back to land, like whenever this COVID stuff dies down or whenever, lands can start happening again. I just hope that they don't like I saw one of the events that actually went on in Modern Warfare and like I just saw like people like playing like on the outer ring of like a stadium. And I'm sitting here
It's during Atlanta. Yeah.
like you know
Happened
what
in
I'm
both
saying, dude?
LA and
Like
Atlanta.
Kevin Allen
I
too.
just
I didn't
want
know that.
yeah, I just want like, challengers to have like a dedicated area and not just kind of like thrown somewhere where,
The
they
best
just
one
want
was Minnesota.
yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying, right? And I just feel like I don't want challengers to be like a thing where it's like, where spectators or casual players are coming in and then they see it and like, oh, I want to play this. I want it to be more
Sure.
like a, legit
Bro, I
thing
feel
where
like
it's
we're
like
literally a sideshow to a
yeah,
circus, Matt.
and that's what it felt like. That's what I felt like when I saw like how the stations were set up and how the event. I just felt like they were just doing it so it was visible for everyone in the venue to see these guys playing and be like, okay, I can actually do this too.
Sure.
I want it to be more like this is a legit thing. These guys are gonna have their own area to play, and then this means a lot.
Yeah, for the
I
league to survive long term, they need to have a place to. They need to have a healthy environment to farm talent, and if they don't, the league will die eventually. I'm not even
I
saying
mean,
that for my own benefit. Like, even
to
if
be
I was a pro,
honest,
it's necessary. Like, you need players to. You need there needs to be an ecosystem for players that are trying to become pro. Because if there isn't, and they have no reason to compete, if they have nothing to compete for, right, or the challenger scene is trash, then they're not gonna play, and they're not gonna have a reason to try to become pro. And then there's gonna be less and less up and coming talent. And then when you have your players that retire, who the hell are you gonna pick up?
Right.
No one's playing. You
Yeah, I
need
feel
you
like
need to have a good
yeah.
ecosystem for challengers, and you
I
need
feel
to
like yeah, no, it's
yeah.
true, dude. It is true. I feel like Overwatch is going through like a similar crisis where it's like I feel like their
which is
tier
big.
2 or tier 3 scenes are like, all over the place and it's
It's
like,
changed almost every single year as far as what the format
yeah.
for contenders is, which is also something that, it could be difficult. A COD's not going to have the same problem, at least in my opinion,
Yeah.
because the grassroots of it always having large tournaments for the amateur scene has been there since the dawn of time when it comes to Call of Duty. So there is always something you could fall back on. It's just interesting for me because I would feel, and maybe the assumption is a bit off base, but as a player, you being able to separate yourself from the rest of the field in any way is extremely important, because at the end of the day, you know, like you guys were mentioning at the beginning of this show with connections and networking between pro players, coaches, that's going to be some pretty easily exchanged information. But the GMs, the people that are in the office that might not know as much or aren't aware as much as far as who are the upcoming talent, they say, and they see a guy that's, oh, this guy is doing this well in the elite circuit, we should absolutely be able to pull the trigger on that guy. I don't know. I think that the opportunity is pretty massive for players coming into this next year with just this alone.
Yeah, no, it's definitely better. I'm more so saying like they need to get this right, and they need like hopefully a format continues. Like even going to LAN, like so when they announced this whole home series thing going to LAN, I was like, this is stupid. And what they should do is they should well, I know why they're doing it. They're trying to like, you know, channel the markets, like I said, for each individual home series. But
Right.
what they should have done is they should have had like regional tournaments. So they should have, if they're worried about this whole like the market stuff, they should have Western Conference tournament, like for challengers, like a Western Conference tournament or tournaments, and then the Eastern Conference tournaments. And you could travel like it was more so for like the franchises that are like in the East and the franchises that are in the West. They can come together and put together a tournament rather than like having all these super segregated home series. And like it would benefit the challengers more, because then the prize pools would be more like they would be less split between all these home series. But then they would like you would be actually be able to plan and attend these. Like being able to attend every home series was impossible, rather than just having
Right.
less tournaments.
I mean,
Would have been
even
so taxing
before,
for an org.
yeah, dude, even before we were talking to Triumph about it, and like we were talking about how the year was gonna be scheduled, and we got picked up. So after Minnesota, we were just talking about like, you know, what tournaments we're gonna attend, what tournaments we're not gonna attend, and like just like to put into perspective, like there was absolutely no way that we could have attended all these events, like absolutely no way. You know what I mean? There was an
Yeah.
event I felt like every 2 weeks, it looked like every 3 weeks, whatever, and I just feel like for an org, it's like especially if you're in a tier 2 org, you know, in a tier 2 like scene, you're not going to be forking out, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars every 2 weeks to
much.
send your team to the event, you know? It is way too much. I just hope they actually, like, you know, think it through more, you know, when it does come back to LAN.
What I feel like we need for LAN at least, I think we need open events. Like that genuinely will drive COD the most, I think.
Well, I mean, let's
I
be
mean,
honest.
think
Like
about-
the open
And
events
they,
took up
they were
the
open
majority
events.
of
Yeah,
the
but they were
majority of
maxed.
the majority of
They
the
weren't open.
attendance was based off of how many signups you had from the open tournaments.
I mean,
They-
yeah, the
they-
way
yeah, I was gonna say they were trying to literally make it so that people attend their home series that are competing and like will stay and watch their tournaments. The home
Right.
series is
Man.
just to get attendance.
I know, but the
And
way
that
they
was
made
just
it,
dumb.
I mean, dude, like what was it? Wasn't it maxed at 32 teams? Each
Oh, they
open
did
bracket
cap
was
'em.
maxed
They
at
did cap 'em,
32
yeah.
teams. Why? Why is that a thing? That to me doesn't make any logical sense.
Because they don't have the space, because it was in the those like arenas. You remember?
I know they don't have the space, but like still, you're capping at 32 teams. Like that's in ways almost kind of killing the amateur scene.
So
Yeah.
It's hurting it a lot more than it's helping it.
yeah, I think that, you know, for a lot of the guys that are out there that, you know, for instance, like Team War, for instance, that's an organization, and obviously Singularity is actually the more appropriate relation here, because they've sent their team here to North America to play for a month and a half. But it's just not possible at the end of the day for every single organization that's there. So just
Yeah.
before we get on into the idea of how do you get, you know, LAN events to run, speaking on Elite specifically, going on to this next year, do you think that there is an element of positivity behind the fact that it's not just an Elite and you're playing in tournaments every single weekend, and that is kind of a league standpoint where you've got individual matches? Obviously, we don't know the scheduling, but let's say that the Elite series is broadcasted from Tuesday to Thursday. You've got Europe in the afternoon, North America at night. Let's say that all of you guys make Elite, maybe on different teams, and you play 2 matches a day. Do you think that that is a better system than just playing tournaments, or do you think that the tournament scene should be the main focus for anything that's not pro?
No, it's definitely a better. It's definitely a better for the
Yeah,
elite
way
stuff,
better.
because not only do you get a better sample size of like what like players like in their placings, because like not their placings, but like you actually get to play every single team that makes elite if you're doing like the round robin stuff.
Right.
In the tournaments, you would actually sometimes not even play a team for like an entire like stretch of
Dude.
tournaments because of the way your brackets added up.
Yeah, no, literally, like there was weeks where we played FaZe Academy for, you know,
Mhm.
7 weeks straight, and then it was, you know, 6 weeks not playing them at all. You know what I mean? And it was just how the brackets ended up falling. So I just with the league thing, I'm just hoping, it's just going to be more consistent for everyone in it. Everyone's going to be able to play each other.
Play everyone. Yep. And it won't be like, oh, you avoid this matchup, so you place further.
So
like you got, let's say my team and Royalty's team, for example, were both very weak versus FaZe, right? But Royalty's team edged out a seed above us, so we would play FaZe earlier. We would lose to them. We'd place, let's say, 6th or something. They would place top 4. They would place in the money because they didn't have to play FaZe earlier than we did. Rather than we play the Elite, which is like a league system, and we all play each other, and then we get appropriate seeding because we all play the same amount of games versus every team, rather than just like, oh, you played them sooner, so you get a higher placing or you get a better bracket seed, whatever, blah blah blah. So I think it's good. It's overall, Challengers Elite is a very, 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 very positive thing for us.
Yep, I agree with that.
Cool. Awesome. So let's talk about the implications. Obviously, let's say that, COVID, we get a vaccine for it. We're allowed to travel. We're allowed to do land stuff again without major considerations like bubbles, things like that. Hypothetical situation, but let's say that it happens next year. What is your ideal setup as far as how lands are working? Because there's the opportunity to still have home series events. And beyond that, with the Elite League, one of the things that Visions and I talked about yesterday in the Diffuse was imagine a world where you qualify for the Elite, but you've got your top 8 from NA, your top 8 from EU, and let's say top 4 from APAC get invited to a mid-season or a finals or a cup, whatever it happens to be. What would your ideal setup be as far as being able to establish lands? Because I feel like at a certain point, you still run into the same problem of it's an open tournament. I literally at Anaheim casted a 250-0 and then a 6-0 in the first weekend of first day of events that we had. What is your ideal setup as far as how land would be set up?
I think the best thing they could do is like allocate a certain amount of spots to either EUNA and Australia or APAC, sorry. And what they could do is they could do the qualification process for it online, and then we'd go to lands. And I don't know what home series or what tournaments we would do our Challengers Elite at, and we would just basically have like a secondary stage for Challengers, and we would have instead of like the way the home series work or their league works, we would just do Challengers the same way, just with that those like player or those teams from NA.
Yeah, dude. I think if they did that too, to speak on it more, if they did like what Chris is saying, like I feel like Activision will be more inclined to support those said teams. You know what I mean? Like it'll be easier to support 8 teams rather than trying to get 200 teams. You know what I mean, to come to your event. I think if you focus on your main teams and challengers, like the growth will just happen naturally. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just feel like if they like actually do this challengers like elite series properly, like it could be really good for Call of Duty, and this could be a thing like for the next couple years. Now when they go back to land, like that's like another story. You know what I mean?
I know everyone loves playing it. I know everyone loves playing, events on LAN and stuff like that. And even the lower tier AMs love going to LANs and playing and screaming at each other and stuff like that. But realistically, unless you're getting orgs and stuff like that, I'm not telling you how to spend your money, but this is just a better ecosystem for everyone. Like if you're a bottom 64, 128 team, whatever the hell, dude, like you shouldn't, like, unless you were choosing to spend your own money, you shouldn't have to travel to these tournaments to compete and to give yourself a spot or an opportunity to make like elite. Have the lower tier competition at home. Period. You're saving money. People are more likely to invest in competing because they don't have to go anywhere. So that makes it so people are more inclined to just, hop in the scene because they can do everything from home. They don't have to spend the money to travel. And then if they do manage to be star players and they do manage to come up in the scene and they end up getting on a good challenger team and they perform well and then they qualify for elite, then they go to lands and stuff like that. But like you should like and I get it, lands fun, but you can still attend lands to spectate and do whatever the hell you want, hang out with your friends if you really want to, but like you shouldn't be forced to go to lands to basically become a at least top challenger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I want to get your take on this here, Xotic, just to kind of as we get close to wrapping up. One of the things that I enjoyed the most over the last couple of years that Activision Blizzard has put on was a couple of years ago during Overwatch Contenders. They had their contender season split up into 2 different halves. You had a spring half and a fall half. And in the summer and in the winter, there would be localized events. So the way that it essentially worked is you qualify for contenders, you play through essentially 5 weeks of group play, and then you have a playoff. If you finished, it was like top 2 or top 3 in that playoff, you earned a spot to get to what was essentially a mid-season invitational and essentially an end-of-season invitational. Is that an ideal world to be able to kind of mix the world between both online and LAN? Because in my mind, I think open events or open tournaments during home series, sure, have them. Let people sign up, let them play through the gauntlet of playing through however many teams that are there. But trying to find a way to make the elite system work on LAN, I think, also needs to show some exclusivity. I don't know what your overall take as far as tournaments are concerned, but
I mean, from what you gave, I mean, realistically, they probably could implement that to COD, and we probably could have more events. So, like, I say our champs for like the Challenger champs, would be like the end of year, like pretty much elite playoffs, pretty much.
sure. But
But
should that be
basically, like,
global though? Like that's the whole
I
other
think it should.
thing.
I 100% think it should be global. Depending, I mean, no, it should be global no matter what.
LAN
I
should be
feel like
global, no questions asked.
global,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
matter what, it should be global for the fact that there's obviously a lot of talent. EU. I mean, like you said, you have War, Singularity. You had like the London Academy
The
team.
Academy,
Yeah.
You
Train
had
Hard, all
good
those
teams.
guys. Yeah.
You had good teams, but we've never like when they never came to NA. We never came there. Like we never played each
Yeah,
other.
and that's
So
what I'm
we
saying.
don't
Like for Challengers Elite, or just like they need to spread out like they need to make it so that EUs and even the APAC teams don't feel like they need to come to don't feel like they need to come to every land, even if they're like at the lower like echelon of like the teams, because if they're not going to be able to show up, like there's just
Yeah.
no way that all those teams could show up. They need to have the lower tiers of competition be done online, and they
I
need
agree
to
with that.
have the higher teams go to LAN.
Yeah.
Period. Every single
I
time.
was worried about that this year, dude. With like, I mean, I told someone, I was telling my team this. I was like, if this ran on LAN, I don't know what the hell would happen, because, like, the way it was like planned out for Modern Warfare was like you said, to have the 12 LANs or the home series or whatever. You know, some LANs were getting 32 teams. It's like not everyone's going to be able to attend them all. Like, how would have everything have played out? Because at least with the online, at least I was able to compete against every top team every single weekend, every
Sure,
single
sure.
tournament. You know what I mean? And then if you went to LAN, we did the whole LAN thing the year. You're going to be, winning
Yeah.
tournaments where some teams didn't go, and then the other teams are going to be winning tournaments where you didn't go.
And then for the EUs and the APAC teams, like the amount of home series they could have attended would have probably been like maybe 1 or 2, bro. So like if
it would've been
if
many.
champs and stuff like that for challengers was at like on LAN, then those EU and APAC teams would have had like maybe 1 or 2 opportunities to get their highest placing possible
Right.
in a home series, when NA teams had it easier. And like that's what I'm saying. They need to make it so that NA, EU, Australian, all of the lower echelon of competition is done online, and then they qualify for some sort of LAN, elite, whatever, because then it puts less pressure on the top EU and NA AM teams that, or not NA, sorry, EU and APAC AM teams that can actually compete with the top NA teams, etc. And they could compete at the top echelon of challengers, to have to fly overseas and waste all this money and have a harder time than NA. They already have a hard time. They have less practice than us. It makes it
Right.
even more difficult on them because they have less opportunities and have to spend way more money. And it's just like they need to make it so like these teams qualify, and then like let's say Activision or whatever, even if they're even to their orgs, whatever, at least they're guaranteed to have some sort of spotlight being in Challengers Elite if they qualify through the online process. Like open series, open events are great, and I love the open environment, seeing all my friends and seeing all these people coming to compete. But they need to get rid of that system for challengers, because it makes it basically freaking impossible. Unless it was like Activision before would fly out the like top NA, EU, and APAC teams, but I don't see them ever doing that again with the franchise model.
Probably
I don't
not.
see them paying for all the
Oh,
challenger
that's right. No,
teams.
didn't they?
They were
do that
doing it
for
actually at
Minnesota?
MW. They were, yeah, they
didn't
did do it
that
for Minnesota.
Yeah,
But
that's what I thought.
that was the big tournaments. That you
Right.
had those were
Yeah, no,
huge
you're right.
tournaments.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the home series, and those home series were global. Like let's say there was no home, there was like maybe one or two home series for EU. It was the
Yeah,
Paris
they
one
had
and the
an
fucking-
Paris,
exclusive one
London.
in Paris, and they had the one in London.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so they're just getting and APAC had none. They had to come to
Nothing.
new ones.
They had
They
nothing.
had
So-
to fly.
Like I said, that's what I'm saying. If they're going to have an abundance of tournaments like that, where you qualify for Challengers Elite, if they're going to try to transfer that system over for LAN, they need to make it so the higher echelon of teams aren't just screwed. because
Yeah.
right now, if they try to transfer it now, or they tried to transfer some sort of similar from last year, they were screwed. They had zero opportunities besides their 2Ks. That was their tournaments, their 2Ks. They weren't
Yeah.
coming to home series.
That's true.
I think there was one
Yeah.
team coming to home series, and those teams were far ahead of all the other teams that were in their region because
Yeah.
they could actually afford it. But it screwed out so many teams.
I think
wrong.
ideally, like kind of listening to all you guys spit these ideas, you have a global open event, kind of like Minnesota at the beginning of the year, kind of a ceremonious, here's the beginning of the competitive season, make it global. There's an opportunity for, let's say, another $250,000 that gets thrown out. You're going to get your best Japanese team that's going to send their team out. You're probably your top 3 APAC teams, and then most of the top teams from Europe are going to come through there. But as far as how things go from there on out, I would love to see a mid-season invitational with your top 6 squads from both NA and EU, and then your top 2 from APAC. Your best from NA and EU get a first round bye, essentially, or whatever. Something in the middle, and then another cumulative thing at the end of the year. The thing about this is all speculation. The thing that we know, at least for now, is that APAC will not have a chance to play in Challengers Elite. And all of you guys just went down the field and agreed that there are teams and players in APAC that could compete. You might not have a dog in this fight, but if you're Renegades, do you take the chance to fly those 4 guys and move them to North America to play this season?
Yep. 100%.
I do, 100%.
100%.
I want to say yes, but dude, like I said, we start off this whole podcast on the notion that, hey man, we had people from NA. This is the North American region, the top region, right? Won challengers, played well, all of challengers, got minimal opportunities.
Yep.
You do that with the Australian teams, and they're spending tons. As organizations, they're spending tons of money to get their players here to compete in the NA scene, and they're not even guaranteed. Like, that's so discouraging. They just saw these
Nah,
NA
it is.
players.
Yeah.
Like, what?
It's
Like,
just
honestly, man, like, I want to say yeah, but at the same time, bro, like, they're getting getting blackballed like so fucking hard, dude. They're getting
It's hard,
screwed,
dude.
bro. Like, it
on a
sucks
bad
because
spot.
they're getting screwed over like hard.
They are.
There's
I mean, the only
nothing-
way-
there's
yeah,
nothing there for them, dude.
The only way would be to move to either Europe or NA that has the Elite Series. That's the only way you
that's,
can
that's
realistically
the only
showcase.
chance that you have, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, it feels like if you want to get picked up, let's just say that 2022 sees 4 expansion teams. The only way you get considered for that is if you're at some point in time, I feel like, played in Challengers Elite for the most part.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say largely, but for the most part.
So yeah, I guess it would benefit them, and it's probably gonna make their chances a lot higher. But honestly, man, like,
I just feel like if they did nothing, there'd be literally no chance for them. You know what I mean?
It kind of feels
True,
like
true.
you're
If
ending
they
your
did
career
nothing,
at that
yeah.
point, almost.
Yeah.
I mean, because,
Yeah,
like, let's
that's
just say
true.
that Renegades go on another flawless run, which with their roster is probably going to happen, especially if they just stay at APAC again. Will that actually mean anything? Because there's been conversation over Pred, people saying that Paris should be taking a look at him, that he should be moving over and be getting a pro spot in some form. But the logistics of it aren't there right now. My thing is, I don't, maybe you guys know, like, are Luca and Shox both moving back to Australia?
I actually don't know.
I mean,
unless I'm just overthinking this here, yeah, they should be. Like,
Yeah,
they're playing with that Australian team, like, unless they're coming over, but they're
Right.
playing with an Australian team, and I'm pretty sure their ties to the US were because of Paris, their organization they played under. It's not like they actually had places out here. Like, they
No.
were there, they like, at least for the long term. I'm pretty sure they're
I
going back.
would have to imagine that they're going to be.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It would be
No idea.
smart for them to come here and compete here because it's probably going to make their chances higher. But
It will.
bro, man, like, we saw a lot of people get screwed over this year, and we saw a lot of people do well this last year and still not get anything. So
Yeah.
it's a really it's really discouraging, to say the least, for some of these other players and teams from other regions, for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with that.
Word. Well, hey, we're at about an hour and a half in. This is right around the time that we look to close. So cheers to us for hitting that right in the head. But I do want to go ahead and just run down the line, give you guys a chance to speak your mind, final thoughts, reactions, hopes, dreams, love letters, whatever you possibly want. Parasite, we'll start with you on your final takes from the evening.
I just hope the challenger scene this year is everything they said it's going to be, because it's a step in the right direction, at least for online. When it goes back to LAN, it's going to be a different beast to handle, and I really hope they stop changing the format so much. Like it needs to. We need something consistent because this is just even for the pro scene, it's just frustrating. Like we want to know what we're getting into every year.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's like I said, step in the right direction. I hope it goes smoothly for everyone, including all the challengers and pro players and everything.
Matt?
I mean, it's basically the same thing. I just hope they actually push broadcasting more, especially the top matches. That's done. I
Mhm.
mean, at the end of the day, I feel like that was like a huge component that was missing from the last season. If everyone was able to get on the broadcast and get on a stream, people would, be able to, see how good you actually are. Because I mean, like there was times this last off season where you'd hit someone up and they'd be like, I didn't even see you play all year. It's like, you know what I mean? There just needs to be something. So I think with the Challengers Elite, that's obviously a step in the right direction. For being able to stream all these matches and get everyone's gameplay actually out there for everyone to watch. So
John,
Yeah.
final thoughts from you, my man?
I mean, again, saying pretty much what they both just said. I just hope they kind of stick to their word and they're actually. Actually, I guess I'll switch up a bit. I hope that like CDL actually does take like time and actually does like care about challengers and actually puts the time and effort into making it better. Hearing back from players, like I know how they do it. In, like I mean CDL obviously, they hear back from players, they take advice from what people suggest and blah 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 from players. I kind of hope that does happen in challengers. Is it a long shot? Probably. But something like that, just getting info back from someone, or say just like us three at least, just getting info back to them and making a better challenger scene for everybody. I feel that'd be something great. Again, something that hasn't been talked about, but you never know if that does happen. I think that could be really good.
Sweet. Well, hey guys, I have to say thanks so much for stopping on the show. I've wanted to get you guys in some form or another on a podcast like this, and I think that all of you coming together in the same moment is actually really awesome. Hopefully everyone out there enjoyed it. But again, thanks for you guys coming out and taking the hour and a half to sit here and talk challengers with me throughout the entirety of it. Again, for everyone who's out there, if you missed any of this, we will be uploading this to YouTube. I will be trying to do my best to get this up onto all of your major podcast supporters as well, if you want to have it for car rides, things like that in the future. But for now, we'll say farewell, and we'll catch you guys right back here next time for the Diffuse on Monday, and hopefully off the rip again on Tuesday. So long.